Hi, and welcome back to Cheesy Dan Reviews. I'm Cheesy Dan. This channel is the perfect place for the picky eater to pick their preferred piece of pizza. If you're picky and you love pizza, well then you're in the right place. Today we're going to be reviewing the Totino's Party Pizza. This is a single serving style pizza, and of course we're getting it in cheese. We're going to give it a score based on its initial appearance, off of its first day taste, its value, and then come back for day 3 and see how it reheats. And then we're going to total them up, divide it by 4, and give it its cheesy score, and see how the Totino's Party Pizza stacks up against the others we've tested. Stay tuned. Welcome to Cheesy Dan Reviews. I'm Cheesy Dan. This is the perfect place for the picky eater to pick their preferred piece of pizza. And today we're going to be focusing in on a pizza I've actually not tried before. Today we're going to be looking at the Totino's Party Time Pizza. This one specifically is the cheese variant. They do have quite a few different options, but of course this is Cheesy Dan and I do cheese, so you knew which one I was going to pick. I was recommended this pizza to try by a friend of mine. They said that it's been a good friend when times are tough and money's tight, so I thought I'd go ahead and give it a shot myself. This pizza comes in around $2 to maybe $2.50 depending on what store you shop at. So it is definitely going to stack very high on the value quotient. But the next step is to see, what does it even look like? Does it look appetizing? Does it look like something you're going to want to eat? Let's open it up.
I'll be with you in just a moment.
Oop, made a little bit of mess, but you can see right here it does say that it's a 3 cheese style pizza. It almost kind of reminds me a little bit of like a pizza you might get back at school, back when you were getting school lunches. Not a lot of cheese, however it might spread out pretty well once it starts cooking. But the bottom of it does have kind of a flaky feeling to it, so I think that this pizza is going to cook up pretty well and have a nice flaky bottom to it. I do actually have a little miniature baby cooking stone.
It's so tiny.
And so I'm going to go ahead and put that on there, and it almost fits exactly perfectly. Now the directions say while the directions say to cook at 450 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes, I think in retrospect I would have cooked this more at 400 degrees and just watched it until it was done, and it might have came out better for that. I've already preheated the air fryer because this is the perfect size to fit in there, and we're going to go ahead and cook it and see how it looks after it's cooked. But my initial impression off of it, like I said, I would say my initial impression is not going to be extremely high. It's probably going to be about a 4 as far as the initial appearance. But let's see what it looks like once it cooks, and we'll be the judge then. That little pizza stone put up a pretty big fight, but I still won. I actually ended up stopping the cooking time a little bit sooner. I think the 450 degrees for anything more than about 10 minutes might be a little bit overkill. The pizza itself actually was looking fully cooked pretty quick, so I went ahead and stopped it sooner. That would have been probably more like around the 9-minute mark than it would have been the 12-minute mark, just simply because, as you can see, it was getting pretty well cooked. So initial impressions, I'm going to say actually my initial thought looking at it was putting it at a 4. I feel like the finished product is probably honestly more like a 3. So my initial appearance has actually gone down on mark. It's mainly just because, as you can see, there's not as much cheese on here, so it really doesn't spread out super far, and the initial look to it looks kind of unfinished, like you could have added some extra cheese and that would have made it for a better taste. But the next step here is I'm going to go ahead and cut it so that I can have 4 individual pieces. go ahead and let's grab a slice here. Oh, it's sticking pretty good. All right, now that we've got it plated up, let's let it cool off and we'll give it a taste. Now that it's had a chance to cool off some, let's take a look at how it came out. Now you can see there is a little burnt on the corner there. That's just simply because that corner was hanging off of the pizza stone, so no big issue there. It does look like it's evened out a bit. I'm still going to have to say that my initial view of it as far as appearance, I'm still going to have to hold to that 3. It's not quite as appetizing as I would hope it would be. Now I realized as well, I did not go ahead and give it its value. At $2.50, I don't really know you're going to find many at-home style pizzas for much cheaper than that. Maybe there's some options I'm unaware of. If that's the case, go ahead and put those in the comments. I know when I was younger, I used to eat one called Mama Celeste, or Celeste, I think is what it's called now. But I remember as a kid calling it Mama Celeste. I used to throw those in the microwave, and I know they probably weren't super good for you, but it was just a quick meal and got you through. And this is kind of giving me those vibes. So as far as value score goes, there really isn't anything better. So I would say it's probably going to come in at a 10 for being such a cheap pizza that you can easily heat up at the house for about 10 minutes and have a meal. So value score is super good. Initial appearance is not super strong at a 3. Now let's try it for taste and see what it's like. So it's definitely giving me that Mama Celeste pizza style vibes. It's got almost like a sweetness to the sauce. The cheese is light enough, you kind of taste it and you don't. It almost feels like you're tasting as much or more of the sauce than you do actually the cheese. And the sauce is pleasing. It's like I said, it's kind of like a sweet taste to it. Nothing definitely on the high end of things, but I would say the initial taste is actually better than I was expecting. The crust is flaky. You can actually kind of get a view of it there. The crust is thin and it's flaky. And like I said, the sauce is pretty sweet, so it's not too bad. I would say my initial taste is going to do a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to put this one at a 4.5. It's by no means something that you get super excited about, but if you need a quick meal and you're trying to stay on the cheap, it's not too bad. Now the big question here is, how is this going to hold up for day 3? And I'm kind of just as interested as you are. I really don't know how well this is going to hold up. So I guess we're just going to have to put it in a freezer bag, stick it in the fridge, and then come back on day 3 and see what it's like. See you then.
3 days later.
Welcome back. It's day 3 of the Totino's Party Pizza taste test. So we've gotten it out of the fridge. You can see it here in the bag. Doesn't look a whole lot different than it did when we first put it in. Now, if I'm being completely open with you, I'm not necessarily looking forward to day 3 on this one. I'm not really sure that this is a pizza that was really meant to have leftovers. So as a result, I don't have high expectations, but I'm still open-minded. We'll see what it does. But just keep in mind, with it being a personal style pizza, more than likely you're not going to have leftovers with this one. But I've got to be fair at the same time and judge this pizza the same way I've judged the ones before. Therefore, we've got the day 3 test. So we're going to go ahead and put it inside our handy dandy air fryer here. We're just going to set it right there on the rack. I've got it set to 350 degrees, and we're going to give it just a little bit of time until it warms up, and then we're going to give it a taste test.
Excuse me, just one moment. Thank you.
All right, now that we've given it a chance to warm up, you can see that it's got a little bubbling to it, so it's definitely good and warm. Now, the only thing left to do, let it cool off just a little bit so we don't scald our tongue, and then let's go ahead and give it its day 3 taste, and then we're going to give it its cheesy score. Now that it's had a chance to cool off, let's go ahead and let's take a bite. Let's get our day 3 test. So you can see here, cooled off pretty well. Looks about like it did on day 1. Obviously a little bit of cheese aging on it. Nothing too bad. Now let's take a bite. Now cooking it a second time essentially with the air fryer, the bottom of it does get a little bit extra crispy compared to the way it was on the first time, but it's not that bad. I would say that it holds up better than I would have expected. It doesn't taste a whole lot different than day one. I was honestly expecting this to be pretty bad. I was expecting to be a 1, kind of like it was with the DiGiorno. However, in this case, I could actually say it was better than I expected. While day one taste test put this one at a 4.5, I would say that it's definitely going to be more like a 3, but at the same time, that's really not that bad considered what I expected. So it did exceed my expectations. Definitely not something that, again, you would get super pumped about eating, but if you did have some leftovers and you needed to eat it later, it's nothing to get upset about. But with a day one score of 3 for appearance, 4.5 for taste, a 10 for price or value, because obviously you can't beat it at $2 to $2.50, with day 3 taste test coming in at 3 points, that gives us a cheesy score of 5.125. That puts it in its comparison slightly above the DiGiorno 5 cheese stuffed crust, only by a little bit, and the main part of that obviously is the value score. But that tells you some of the times if the price is right, it can make it worth it, even if it's not the best pizza around, if the price is right. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Maybe there's a pizza that you're aware of that I haven't tested yet, and you think it'd be great for me to give it a try and see what its cheesy score is. Make sure you put that down in the comments below. Or if you have questions about why I do the pizza scores the way I do, put them down and I'd love to answer them for you. But until the next review, make sure you like, you subscribe, hit the bell notification. That way you'll be made aware as I do post a new review every Friday at 12 o'clock. And until we eat again, stay cheesy.